People have asked about a couple of things actually about our plans. The first question is about the name Iolair, and it is an unusual name. It's Gaelic for sea eagle, but the reason that our boat, when we get here, will be called Iolair is because there was a ship called Majesty's Yacht Iolair, which foundered off Stornoway Harbour on January the 1st, 1919. And it was full of men returning from the trenches in the First World War. And my great-grandfather was on board, and he perished. She foundered just a matter of yards off the coast, within sight of the harbour. And he died. So he died on the 1st of January 1919. That was to be his wedding day. So he was engaged to be married to a lady called Catherine Wares, my great-grandmother. And she was watching, and she saw the ship sink, and her fiancé died. And what adds insult to that tragedy is the fact that she was pregnant with my grandmother, who was then consequently born out of wedlock. And the west coast of Scotland in those days was no place to be a child born out of wedlock. And I think that affected her. And she was the most wonderful, loving and kind lady. And I obviously remember her very fondly. So by us calling our boat Iolair, it keeps the memory of William Head, that's my great-grandfather. It keeps his memory alive and that of my grandmother. And I think it's quite neat, really, that we are but a stop along the journeys of time, really, and I think it pays to be reminded of that. So that's why she's going to be Iolair. And the other question that people ask is, how do you come up with the idea? And there's a chap called Jimmy Buffett who is enormously well known on the west side of the Atlantic, not so much on our side of the Atlantic, but he's an American singer, songwriter, and author. And I first came across him when I was about 20 years old, and I just loved his music. Famous ones, but Son of a Sailor, obviously they all just dive out of my head right now. Tin Cup Chalice, but I don't know, Google Jimmy Buffett and you'll love some of his music. But anyway, I really like this guy. He also happens to be a pilot, and my mum and dad came out to visit us out here in Naples, and my mum loves thrift shops, and there's a thrift shop on camp, so obviously we got dragged around the thrift shop, and I'd never been in there, but in there was a book, and it's A Pirate Looks at 50, which was written by Jimmy Buffett, and one of his songs actually is a Pirate Looks at 40, and that's a great one. Have a listen to that one. So Pirate Looks at 50, and it's autobiographical, and it was him looking at his 50th birthday, and he thought, you know what, and he had this wonderful seaplane, and I've always loved seaplanes, but a Grumman Albatross, and he thought, you know what, I'm an incredibly wealthy businessman. I'm going to reward myself with a flight around the world. I'm going to go on a round the world trip on my aeroplane, and that was how I'm going to celebrate my half century. A pirate looking at 50, and his wife told him to get knotted, the way that the wives sometimes do. And she said, "Look, I'm not going to fly on that rusty old junkyard of an aeroplane. I'll go by private jet, thank you very much. But B, you're also 50 years old, so don't go around the world. Just keep it a bit more local." And so that's what he did. He spent, I don't know how many months, but months flying around the Caribbean, to lots of his old haunts, seeing old friends. And this book, it just documents that trip. And the way these things do, that got me thinking, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great to have a seaplane and just be able to fly around and do all that sort of stuff? Obviously, I'm not a pilot, I'm not a sailor yet either, but I'm not a pilot. But the odds on me ever being in a situation where I could pitch up in my aeroplane and fly around the world are vanishingly small. But and yet, getting a boat and doing it that way is within touching distance. That's achievable. So that got me thinking, and I spent a couple of weeks mulling this over. Sort of, what, we could do it. But I'm coming to the end of my career in the Navy. Looking at the ages of the children and all that sort of stuff, we could do a gap year. We could take a gap year and go on an adventure, and we could buy a motorhome, we could camp, we could do all sorts of different things. But I set upon doing it on a boat, and so as I said, I mulled this over for a couple of weeks, and then actually I'll take you out for this. I said to Emma, one of my favourite times of the day is, it's obviously pandemonium. Emma and I sit on our little patio here, and have a cup of coffee, and so I just suggested it to Emma. I think it was the 16th of May, 2018, and I said, why don't we get a yacht and go sailing? I'm just going to turn you around so you get a nice view of the garden whilst we've still got trees. And I expected her to sort of nod sagely and smile sweetly and say, "Yes, darling," whatever. You're just daydreaming and imagining things again. But then I hope to broach the subject again in a couple of weeks, and maybe sort of wear her down with attrition in an attritional style. But she said yes straight away. After only a few seconds, Emma said, "Yeah, why not?" And that's why I married her. What a great woman. And here we are. I must say, it's me that's doing all the time at the moment on YouTube, watching all these different people on their boats and daydreaming. Emma's far more into the keeping the household running and keeping me and all the boys alive in the meantime. But so that's it. So that's the story behind the name, which is a tragic story, but hopefully will bring some optimism back to that name, some happiness, and if it means that a few more people remember those 212, I think it was 212 men that died that New Year's Day, then that's all the better. That's all the better, really. So that's the story behind the name Iolaire, and the story of how we came to not be here in this midst of this chaos as we're backing up and going, but the story behind us getting ready to go, and 2 years' time go and sailing around the world. Oh, which reminds me, plans have changed somewhat. I'm probably going to do another few months extra in the Navy for various reasons, but then the the additional part to that is that we're probably going to spend 18 months, gusting 2 years sailing. So we're now thinking of rattling around in the Mediterranean for the first half of 2023, and then crossing the Atlantic to do the Caribbean, crossing the Atlantic sometime sort of November 2023, rattle around the Caribbean, do the North Atlantic circuit before arriving back in the UK mid 2024. So that is the grand plan now. Yeah, and hopefully you'll join us and along the way. All right, thank you very much. All right, see you soon. Bye.